You have 53 hidden powers vibrating inside your body right now. And within the next 24 hours, if you follow what I'm going to show you here, they'll start awakening one by one. This isn't a theory. This technique has been hidden for centuries. And Thoth was the first to warn. When you remember the sacred name, everything around you will start to change. And that forbidden name will be revealed at the end of the video. But before that, I'm going to guide you through ancient sacred process, step by step, where each portal that opens activates gifts you didn't even know you had. And if you think you've seen manifestation techniques before, you haven't seen this, because today, you're going to feel in your skin what happens when the soul stops sleeping and starts commanding reality. So take a deep breath, because the first power starts awakening now. Take away from yourself the unreal, and you will behold the truth with the eyes of the soul, for only that which is alike can recognize that which is alike. The name has arrived, but not like any ordinary word. It came as a whisper that crosses generations, as something that isn't learned. It's remembered, Samyama, a sound that vibrates differently in the body, as if it touches a part no one has ever reached. An ancient code, a forgotten ritual, a practice so deep, it was silenced for centuries, so you would never dare to access it. This technique was never in self-help books, never sold in shop windows, because it's dangerous for those who profit from your forgetfulness. Samyama is not something that's taught. It's something that's activated. It was known only by initiates, men and women who, in silence, traveled through layers of reality that the eyes can't see because they knew a secret that modern systems tried to erase. The power of attention is the key to breaking the limits of matter. But be careful. Don't confuse Samyama with regular meditation. It's not sitting down, closing your eyes, and trying to empty your mind. No, Samyama is something else. It's an act of fusion. It's when your presence becomes so intense that it starts to reshape the structure of reality. It's when you fix your focus on one point, hold it, and go through it. Both knew this. He wrote in the emerald tablets that attention directed with purity is the sword that cuts the veils between worlds. When you focus your total attention on a single object with absolute presence, you activate inner portals. This is not a metaphor. It's spiritual technology. It's vibrational engineering. The Corpus Hermeticum describes this same process in another way as the return of the spirit to its original source through formless vision. To see with the spirit and not with the eyes, said Hermes Trismegistus, because the eyes see matter, but the spirit perceives essence. And that's exactly what Samyama does. It transforms perception into fusion. In alchemy, this process was called the fixation of mercury. The alchemist took the most volatile substance, thought, and made it fixed, solid, indestructible. Because when you master your attention, you master the mental fire. And that fire is the same that moves universes. Now understand something important. Samyama is made up of 3 phases, 3 stages that connect like gears in a sacred machine. You'll discover these 3 phases later on. But now, begin the first one. This is where it all starts. There's no need to be in complete silence, to wear special clothes or repeat complicated mantras. What matters now is only one thing. Choose an object. Any object. It can be a candle, a flower, a symbol, your breath, pain, fear, your soul. The choice is yours. The object is only a mirror. What matters is what happens inside you while you observe it. Now fix your attention on that object. Don't look away. Don't think, just look. Allow your presence to enter it without effort. Just hold it. Hold for a few more seconds. Watch what happens. Maybe a slight warmth, a shift in time, a slight feeling that you're not just looking, you're becoming. If that's happening, then you've entered the first phase of Samyama, the first contact with invisible reality. What used to be outside and inside starts to blend. You're no longer observing the object. You are the object. You are the breath. You are the sound. You are the lit candle. You are the center of what is vibrating there. You have merged with what once seemed separate. And in that exact moment, something unbelievable happens. Separation disappears. The world around you remains the same, but the way you perceive everything has changed. It's as if a veil has been subtly pulled back. The edges of reality begin to lose their rigidity. Time slows down. The body feels lighter. And for the first time, you realize that you're not just alive. You're awake. This is the first contact with invisible reality. It's not a grand leap. It's a quiet portal that opens from within. And when you cross it, there are no trumpets, no cosmic visions. But there is something far more powerful, a pure presence, a clarity that was never there before. You know, something has been activated, even if you can't explain it. Maybe you felt a light chill at the back of your neck, or a subtle vibration rising up your spine. All that pressure between your eyebrows, like something is being pushed from the inside out. All of this is real evidence of the beginning of vibrational expansion. Because when fusion happens, duality dissolves, and with it, consciousness begins to release the first forgotten codes. You're not hallucinating. This isn't a mystical trip outside reality. This is legitimate spiritual science. And Thoth was one of the first to record this process, describing it as union with the spirit form, a moment where the I surrenders to what he called the original matrix of creation, a state where there is no longer observer or observed, only vibration, only consciousness and motion. And when you enter that flow, the first gifts awaken vibrational clarity. You start to sense the energy of places, of people, of situations, with a clarity that goes beyond logic. You walk into a space and instantly know if it's in harmony or in collapse. Nothing fools you. Energy speaks before words, sensing others. Energy feels what the other feels. You feel, but not like a sponge, like a radar. You don't absorb it, you perceive it. You can tell when the sadness in your chest isn't yours. You begin to hear the invisible in the silences. Micro-perception of time. Seconds seem to stretch. You notice the gap between thoughts, the space between impulse and action. And within those micro-moments, you gain freedom. You begin to act with awareness, no longer from impulse. Reading subtle energy, glance, a gesture, a whisper. Everything carries energetic information. And you start to read it like someone reading a language they've always known, but had forgotten. People's bodies begin to tell you stories they don't even know how to express. Connection with living objects, a crystal, plant, a flame, a stone. Everything responds to you. You begin to feel the subtle presence of these objects as resting consciousness. And this connection creates synchronicities that defy logic. This is the beginning of the unlocking in traditional alchemy. This stage is called albedo, the moment when consciousness is washed by inner light. After the nigredo, which is chaos, the albedo brings clarity. It's like waking up from a heavy dream and realizing you were asleep the whole time. It's not the end, it's only the first awakening. Hermeticism translates this stage through the law of correspondence as above, so below. When you merge with an object, with a focus, with a symbol, you're putting that law into action. You become what you contemplate, and what you contemplate transforms into you. And that movement, that exchange, that fusion begins to dissolve. The old world you lived in, the linear perception, the belief in the rigidity of matter, the illusion of separation, all of it starts to fall away, layer by layer. And maybe that's why so many people stop here. Because here comes the real challenge. Here comes the shock. What's about to be accessed goes beyond sensory expansion, beyond the enchantment with the invisible. This is where the soul enters a formless region where there is no more reference. And many, when they reach this threshold, retreat. But you won't retreat, because now the void is approaching, and within it, the impossible happens. There is no form, no color, no sound. But there is something you've never experienced before, the total silence of the mind. This is the point of transition. Most people live their whole lives without ever getting here because this isn't a space reached through effort, mental techniques, or control. On the contrary, it only appears when all the noise disappears, and all that remains is presence. Jacobo Grinberg called it the space before thought. Renee May called it the frequency of the void. But none of these names fully capture what it really is, because it's not something to be understood. It's something to be entered. And when you enter, the soul takes over. In that space, matter no longer has authority. Emotions calm down, logic stops screaming, and the body begins to listen. You're no longer trying to breathe. You are the breath itself. And in that state, miracles happen. Not because something magical appears from the outside, but because for the first time, you stopped interfering here. What was blocked begins to flow. What was hidden begins to show itself. Your cells listen to you literally. They react to the vibration of your consciousness. They reorganize. They awaken. And with that, something inside you unlocks total empathy. You don't just understand others. You feel as if you are them. But with balance, you don't get lost. You connect. And that connection opens doors that were once invisible between souls. Subtle vision of the future, not as premonition, but as early awareness of probabilities. You feel what's about to happen before it happens, because your field is already tuned to the timeline taking shape. Reception of energetic information. You no longer need words, obvious signs, or explanations. You feel information arriving through non-physical channels. It simply appears clear, direct, as if it was always there. Spontaneous vibrational healing. Something in your body starts adjusting without effort. A pain disappears, a weight dissolves. Not because you wielded, but because your frequency rose. And what was too dense no longer has space to exist. There, opening of spiritual hearing. Sounds not from the physical world begin to be perceived. Subtle tones. Words inside. Sometimes a voice. Sometimes an echo without origin. It's the field responding to you. Bodily intuition. Your body begins to guide you precisely. A knot in your stomach warns you. A sudden warmth confirms something. You begin to trust the body's signals as a spiritual compass. Active synchronicity. Coincidences increase. But now, you know they're not coincidences. It's as if the universe starts responding to you in real time. A thought becomes an event. A doubt becomes an answer. At the right moment, reading others. Body trauma. You look at someone and feel where the block is. Even if the person doesn't say anything, even if they smile, you know where it hurts. And that perception opens the way to true care. Sense of mission. Not as an idea or a career, but as an inner certainty. Vibrational recognition. You know why you're here, in words, but in presence. You feel there's something only you can bring to the world, and that changes everything. These 9 powers aren't external skills. They're the reflection of a consciousness that has returned to its point of origin. Self. Called this, the sea of silent infinity, a place with no form, but full of creation. Because that's where everything begins in Hermeticism. This stage is known as Hernosis, the fusion with the One, the moment when the spirit returns to its primordial lessons. There is no ego, no identity, only resting consciousness, as if it's about to be reborn, the void where miracles happen. Today, there is an ancient fire burning inside you, like a truth that can no longer be ignored. It begins in the solar plexus, just above the navel, the center of your vital power, the place where your fears were stored, where your shame was hidden, where guilt built walls. That's where this fire touches first. And when it touches, there's no way to lie to yourself anymore. You begin to remember old pains you didn't know were still there, but not to relive them, to burn them. This fire doesn't hurt, it liberates. It consumes only what isn't yours, only what was placed upon you. It doesn't destroy who you are. It destroys who you believed you had to be to survive. And in this quiet but profound process, 7 new powers emerge. Matic emotional shield. You stop absorbing everything others emit. It's not blockage. It's vibrational intelligence. You still feel, but you're no longer contaminated. Your field creates an organic protection that reacts before you even realize it. Breaking of repetitive cycles. What kept repeating in your life like an unavoidable pattern? Toxic relationships, financial failures in a sabotage starts to lose strength as if the script was erased. Because the trauma that fed the cycle was burned. Fusion with cellular memory. You begin to access information recorded in your own body. Forgotten memories, sensations that belong to your story, but were locked away. Now, they rise to the surface as too, and you understand release of ancestral pain, pain that wasn't yours, but inherited from your father, your mother, your grandparents. The guilt you carried without knowing why. This fire rises through the lineage and begins to dissolve what had been passed down for generations. Activation of the luminous plexus. It's as if the center of your body gained light, a golden, warm living vibration. You feel heat without fever, an inner glow that grounds you. Fear begins to melt. Shame transforms into presence. You begin to inhabit yourself, reprogramming of beliefs. What you believed about yourself begins to collapse. Phrases like, I'm not capable, I don't deserve, that's not for me lose meaning. Because now, there's a force behind every thought, and it doesn't allow energetic mastery in dense environments. You enter heavy places, and don't lose yourself on the contrary. Your presence shifts the field. You notice the energies, but you don't bow to them. You lead, you anchor, you cleanse. Thoth called this center the inner sun, and he said only those who purified the fire could see without being consumed. Because the plexus holds the key to what he called the solar logos, the intelligence that organizes chaos, the spark that reveals what is hidden in hermeticism. This fire is the reflection of the spirit descending into the plane of form, the light of the one trying to reorganize the lower levels of reality. That's why those who activate this center radiate more than presence. They radiate direction. In alchemy, this stage is known as citrinitis, the phase where lead begins to turn to gold, where consciousness, once dark, begins to shine with its own light. It's no longer about deconstructing. Now, it's about revealing. And that revelation brings a consequence. When the fire burns and the light expands, the eyes of the soul open, and what they see tears the veil of ordinary reality. Not physically, but vibrationally, as if a curtain were pulled from the inside out. The world stays the same, but now, there's a second layer over everything. A kind of transparency in the invisible. You're no longer looking, you're seeing. And this happens because the fire, after purifying the solar center, rises, and it touches the point between the eyebrows, the ajna, the single eye, the portal where the spirit begins to decode what was hidden in plain sight. This is where Samyama reveals what the physical eyes can't handle. You look at someone, and without knowing how you feel, you know you read. The person's energy is laid out before you like a living, pulsing field, like a mist with colors, weight, brightness. You're no longer interpreting gestures. You're decoding frequencies. The first power manifests vision of the auric field. Every person becomes a universe, and you begin to navigate them, sometimes with a glance, sometimes just through presence. Then something more subtle. Reading intentions before speech. You sense when someone comes to contribute or to drain. Before the word, before the mask, the vibration reveals everything before the body acts. And with that, the perception of vibrational lying arises. It doesn't matter the tone of voice, the rehearsed speech, or the well-practiced pose. You feel the misalignment, the incoherence between what is said and what is vibrated. And that awareness protects you from manipulation, like an invisible wall. But the vision isn't limited to others. It turns inward, too. You start having flashes, not of memories, but of cycles, karmic cycles, situations repeating over lifetimes, patterns that go far beyond your childhood. And that gives you back the thread of your own story, not the one you were told, but the one you lived as a soul. That's when time starts to lose shape, and you enter a rare state, alignment with the eternal present. Everything is now. The past dissolves, like energetic memory. The future stops being an anxiety. You realize that everything you are is already here. And finally, the sixth power, the most delicate, the hardest to explain, access to your initiatory death. But it's not about dying physically. It's the remembrance of the moment when you, as a soul, crossed the threshold when you chose to forget everything in order to live here. That memory comes as a vague image, a muffled sound, an ancient touch, but along with it comes the responsibility, because now, you know you're not here by chance. In alchemy, this point is named the center of inner observation. It's where the soul's light touches the spirit's matter, where the invisible begins to take shape within you. And when that light touches matter, it starts to emit a sound, a sound without a voice, but that resonates like a calling. You don't hear it with your ears. You recognize it. And it's that sound that now begins to reveal the soundless voice and the name of your soul. Then that sound without form, without words, without volume, becomes a name inside you. Not a common name, not one that anyone could pronounce. It's more like a vibrational signature, a calling that resonates in the chest and opens the exact space where the soul begins to speak for the first time in centuries. This name wasn't given to you. It has belonged to you from the beginning. You are the one who chose it before the first incarnation. It didn't come from outside. It came from the source, from the place where all consciousness was forged with a single breath. And now, this moment, it awakens. When you apply Samyama to this name, something expands. It's not an idea, it's an activation, as if each letter of the spiritual name lights up a part of the subtle body. And the first thing that arises is a silent, deep, irreversible recognition. You know why you are here. The first gift that emerges is this recognition of your life mission, not as a beautiful phrase, but as a physical sensation, a kind of alignment in the center of the body that says, "This is it." And right after that, you realize you are not alone. You never were. Invisible forces begin to respond to your vibration. Small signs, clearer intuitions. The path seems to open from within. And this is the second gift, alignment with invisible forces. Communication begins to shift. You no longer need to translate feelings into words. You begin to sense that you are transmitting a different language, a language without grammar, but full of truth. You have entered the frequency of vibrational language. This is where creation becomes faster, purer, less mental. A simple intention already begins to shape the field. This is the gift of creation through pure intention. And with it comes clarity of purpose. You no longer want everything. You want what vibrates with your essence. This alignment activates a new channel, that of authentic spiritual channeling. It's not about hearing voices. It's about knowing what's right without thinking. It's as if the answer were recorded in the water of your body. Speech changes. The voice changes. Not just the outer voice, but the voice that commands the field. Then emerges the healing voice. Words spoken with truth begin to vibrate in others, like medicine. And this vibration causes the invisible to surface. What couldn't be seen appears. What was blocked responds. You manifest the invisible. And this is a power that no one can take from you, because it is born from the name of your soul. This name gives you back a throne, the command of subtle light. You no longer chase, you emanate. You attract what already recognizes your vibration. The body also begins to respond, not as a miracle from outside, but as an ancient technology being reactivated self-regeneration. Your cells receive new instructions, and they obey. Finally, you touch the rarest state of all, earn to origin, consciousness. You remember what you were before everything, before time, before the body even.